12 months ago, I was in a dark place.
Wow.
Over me son's injuries. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy.
I had to explain about my own son not getting the ball into an area what he should have a couple of times. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know if I was right. I didn't know if I was wrong.
When Kasper lifted that trophy, that for me is still the best moment in my football life.
Wow.
I love that moment.
So, Wrighty, explain what we're doing here today.
Right, we're teaming up with Gillette Labs to do a special Father's Day episode. We're going to be talking about our boys, talking about football, pressures that come with it, and nervousness of a dad watching his son. And we've got a special guest as well. He's joining us. Let's have a shave.
I haven't had a shave for a long time.
Did you get taught to shave? Did you do a shave with your dad?
No, I didn't. I think it was more at the club. I was always told to have a shave after training because you've been sweating, it'll come off easier. I think I got that from Jan Moby.
Seriously?
Yeah, honestly.
Some foam on, James. Go on, James, put it on, let me see you.
Let's go. Right, come on, what have we got here? So, Wrighty, come on, you've asked me about the first shave. I mean, talk me through yours.
I haven't got a lot of hair. My dad wasn't a very beardy guy, so it was my brother really showed me. It was it wasn't as smooth as his. But look how smooth mine is.
Yeah.
It's really smooth.
Like a baby's bum.
That was beautiful. That's how I put the stars. Hey! I look great. Hey, who would have thought that, James? Look at us.
Yeah. When I used to stand on the Gladys seat, watching you score all those goals against Everton, who'd have thought I'd been getting a shave at you in the mirror?
It was never pleasure. It was always business.
So we are joined by another famous footballing father. The man has won the Premier League, he's won the Champions League, he has won the lot. Everything, we can't even just go through it all. And you know what?
Go on.
His son's done pretty well as well.
Yes.
And his son's name's Kasper. So that tells you who it is.
Yeah.
It's the one and only Peter Schmeichel.
Peter Schmeichel. How are you, big man?
I'm very, very good.
Good.
So much better for being here.
So, Peter, role models when you were growing up. For you,
Yeah.
who did you look up to?
I had a couple of coaches along the way that. So I had this weird thing when I first started playing organised football. I was 8, and I was outfield for about 5 minutes.
Wow.
And the coach said,
Must have been centre back.
Pete, well, I didn't, honestly, I didn't even know the rules. I didn't have a clue about football. And he says, Pete, try the goal.
Was you taller than the rest of the guys as well?
I was a little bit, not so much. So I went in goal, and from that moment on, people started to say that, whoa, you have a talent. The first coach, can't remember his name, but I got picked for the school team when I was in 3rd grade, and our school was all the way up to 10th grade, so it was for the whole school.
And how old was you?
So I would have been 11,
right.
I think.
Right.
11, and I got picked with the big boys, and I remember sat in the car on the way back from a game, and the teacher, the coach, he said to me, Pete, one day you'll play for Denmark.
Wow.
And I'm just like, whoa. And when you get people in authority, like a school teacher, a coach, telling you stuff like that, you believe that.
Wow.
What you don't want to do is to disappoint them. So I always listened to what they were saying.
Did you have that, Wrighty, those type of figures in your life?
Honestly, the guys I have to go back to instantly and without even hesitating.
I've seen a clip. I love you for that.
Everywhere.
Honestly.
Yeah.
When you saw your old school
My old school teacher.
Wow, what a powerful clip that is.
The thing is, Pete, that one, he was the one that changed my life when I was like 7. Everybody talks about that. He was.
How did that come about? The way you you were there? Was it set up by?
You know what? I was doing a television show. I was doing a television program called something with a bit of help from your friends, and me and David Rocastle were building an adventure playground just around Highbury there for the disadvantaged kids. And so I was doing that with all my mates from when we grew up on my estate. So I had to go back to my old estate, get all my old mates, and everybody chipped in to build this adventure playground, which was really good because you didn't see them for years. It was great. And then they wanted me to do a segment where I go back to the club and I'm sitting looking around Highbury. It's because, you know what I mean, obviously everything went pretty well. We done well there. And remember, I've been looking for this teacher for 4 or 5 years, went back to my primary school, nobody could trace where he was. So I actually thought that my old teacher, Mr. Pigden, had died. And so when I was sitting there, you know what I mean, and then he came from behind. It was like, honestly, even like now, the one bit in it what always gets me is when he actually says to me, and it always gets me, is I'm so proud of what you've done with yourself. Because I remember the time I first met him properly, I'd already been thrown out of the class 3 times that week. So he's... Yeah, but the thing people didn't realise now, that I had a kind of... I had a problem with attention. I couldn't pay attention, so I was out the classroom for the 3rd time that week, and he saw me. And as he walked past the classroom, he looked at me, and then he went in. And spoke to the teacher. Then I went with him, and my life changed. So I'd been looking for him for a while, and I thought he'd passed away. And when he came as well, Jamie, he came and he was like 3 steps above me. So when I hugged him, I was still looking up at him. And he was the first. He was the first, Pete, and he's somebody that I think about every day. But then when I got to that age, like 15, 16, with my Sunday team, 10MB, with Errol Palmer and Tony Davis, those guys really were the ones, in respect to the role models, who made me believe that I actually could have done something, especially at a time where I wasn't going anywhere fast. I was in and out of jobs, you know what I mean? I was going to the youth club, just playing pool. I was just like, I was in limbo. And they gave me a purpose and a direction. And I was playing in a man's team when I was 16 and learned all the stuff I needed to learn from those guys in that team. They probably, I know...
What kind of level was that?
No. We was a really good... So we had a lot of ex-professional, ex-semi-professional players who played at good level of semi-pro, and they played in this team. And...
But Sunday League.
Sunday League.
Yeah.
Sunday and Saturday. And, you know what I mean? I learned everything there. Learn everything about there.
So you never went through the academy system?
No, I never went through the academies. Like James, you went through the academy system.
Yeah, I went. I mean, what it was then, it was like a school of...
Who was your role models, though?
Yeah, but I think it's really interesting for most sportsmen. You probably look at your parents, but there's always a school teacher, isn't there, I think? Because I think when you first go to school, you know, you're 4 or 5 years of age, you look up to your school teacher, don't you? And there's that little bit of fear there. And
I remember the first time I saw one of the teachers eating.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Yeah.
When I saw them eating, I was like...
Yeah.
They eat.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the strangest things, when you see a school teacher outside of school, oh my God. What's he doing?
It's true.
So I used to have a headmaster of our junior school. He used to go to the Everton game. So it was like this big thing. We'd go to the Everton game as kids, and you'd be like, there's Mr. Roch.
Yes.
He's at the game. He's watching Everton. And I think when you have someone, there's always 1 or 2 teachers at school, isn't it, who've sort of got a real passion for sport.
You know.
And if they see anyone with any talent for you know, not just football, but they sort of really make it their aim to push it on, isn't it?
Mr. McCarthy, like, you see, like, that teacher said to you, you will play for Denmark one day. I remember there was myself, Henry Laville, Keith McPherson and Steve Pittman, who used to get picked for the district. And one time they sent the letter over and my name weren't there. But Mr. McCarthy said, you go and take this letter with you. And I took it and I brought it to the guy, and he read it. And he didn't do anything. He didn't let me play or anything. But the thing with it is that when I look back on it, I look back on somebody having blind faith in me, even when somebody else didn't. And plus, once I got into football, I realised, you know, as hard as it was to get in there, the journey, along the way, there was people who genuinely had faith in the fact that they thought I was good enough to get there. What was your dad like?
So my dad was a musician. So my father was born in Poland, so he immigrated to Denmark when he was about 30 years of age. So I was born shortly after that. And this is before the big influx of immigration in Denmark. So in the early 60s, we started to ask people to come to Denmark because we needed more workforce. So he was just before then. So Denmark didn't really know about people from other countries. And obviously being a musician in a small country, being educated in a big country, I was a really, really good musician as well, very, really good pianist. He was up against it all the time. So very quickly he realized, you know, he had to be the best. He was practicing like mad. So I grew up with, you know, in that
ethic.
Yeah.
That work ethic.
That it's important and it has value to be the best.
Right.
You must be the best, you know? And of course, my father wanted me to be a pianist as well, so I was on that piano every day, practicing, and I didn't really, I mean, I enjoyed some of it, but I'm listening, you know? The window was open, I can hear all my friends playing football, and that's all I really wanted. So, in order to convince my parents, you know, I had to be special. I had to be the best.
What about you, James? What was your dad like with you and your playing? Because I know that when you were younger, James, everybody's always talked about you as the next big thing, bro. You was a man.
Yeah.
Striker as well.
Yeah, centre fireworks. What was I mean, my dad was just a massive football fan. So, Everton fan. He was a manager of amateur teams, so the teams you're talking about.
Yes.
His dream was sort of, you know, winning the league, winning the cup. There's a famous cup that's dominated by Liverpool amateur teams, that, you know, the National Cup.
Right.
He was always desperate to sort of be the manager who won that. My recollection of my dad when I was a kid, I'd either be going to the Everton game with him, and everything revolved around the pub. You met in the pub.
Yes.
After the Everton game, you go back to the pub. And the amateur teams, it's probably still the case now, more often than not, they're named after pubs. You know, yeah. And ours was the Merton Villa. You know, I played for them as a kid, but the older team, the men. So I'd just be thrown in the back of a van. And I'd be listening to men talking about football, amateur football, being in dressing rooms, being on the side of a pitch. I can still picture them now. Buckley Hill, Brookvale. Where actually Liverpool's training ground is now. That's in Kirby. And before that was there, that was playing fields. That was known as Windy Harbour, because it was just in the middle of nowhere and stuff like that. So a massive influence on me, and really, really passionate about football and would do anything to win. You
see, when did your dad recognise that, like, I see something in him, he can do a bit, he can play, this guy? And what was he like? How did he push you, Jane? This is stuff that I dream of.
It's funny because I hear stories of other players and people say, oh, my dad was my harshest critic. Yeah. My dad wasn't that. And I'm not saying he was always telling me how great I was, but he was always very supportive, because I could get quite down on myself if I didn't play well, even as like a 10-year-old. Yeah. I was aware if I'd played well or not, or I hadn't met the standards I expected, and my dad would be like, you know, so he was never critical of me.
You go through different stages, obviously. 10 years, 15 years.
Yeah.
And then you make it into to Liverpool, for instance. Yeah. Liverpool first team. Along the way, how was he with you? Did he change along the way? For instance, when you became a Liverpool player? Yeah,
he was proud, really proud. Don't forget, we were not just Everton. We were big Everton. We were like home and away. We went to games. And I'm never shy about talking about that, because it's part of my life. They're my memories as a kid, you know, going in the car to watch games, away games, travelling. You know, the day Hillsborough happened, we were at Villa Park in the other semi-final. Everton played Norwich and won 1-0. Pat Nevin, I was in Holt End, you know, watching that. So we were football was just huge.
In terms of him being your dad, looking at you playing as a player. Yeah. I'm very interested in the kind of conversation that you have along the way. I know it's a long stretch, you know, from 10 years and until you retire. But it's something, obviously, it's been part of my life, and you know, it would be interesting to hear how that was for you.
It wasn't a case of sort of like after the game we dissect the game. He was a dad, but I'd hear him talk about Everton players or going to the game, and these things would stick in my mind, like what a good player was. A good player never hides. Yes. And my dad had always, and I keep this to myself now, when I say this on TV, we can all have good games and bad games, but when my dad used to always put a lot of stock in the fact that if someone was having a poor game, he never hid. Yeah. You know, he's always talking about Peter Reid, the Everton player. Even if he's given a few passes away, he still shows for the ball. So these are little nuggets I was picking up as a youngster. And I always tell this story. Go back to the pub after the game, an Everton game. I'm playing Killer Pool or something, obviously having a glass of Coke. All the fellas are drinking, talking about the game. And I always remember someone saying to me, Dad, I believe your son's a bit of a player, isn't he? How good is he? And because he probably had a few drinks, he'll play in the First Division. That was before the Premier League, it was the First Division. And I was playing pool, and I just overheard it, and I was just like, Wow. Because I think when you're young, you only know your area.
Yep.
You only know... I don't know what the players are like in London or Newcastle or Birmingham. And it was just one of those moments that I thought, oh, you know, maybe I've... He was wrong.
He was definitely
Thankfully
wrong.
he was wrong with the money in the Premier League. But it was one of those moments that it just... Sort of, a little thing just sort of sticks with me, yeah. You become a dad really young, didn't you?
I did, because, like, you know, when I met Sean's mum, Sean was just 2 and a bit. So by the time I adopted him, he's 3 and a bit. But I think it was because of my own upbringing with my stepdad. It wasn't great. I wanted to make sure that this guy was somebody that I was gonna give him a real proper chance and give him some real love and make sure that he's okay. You know, because it's something that I wanted.
Just interrupt you there. So where are you at this point in your life?
I'm just like I'm what, 19? I think I've just had another trial at Brighton where I failed in.
Right.
Another one, and I come back. But like me and Sharon were together now, and Sean was there, and I just felt like the right thing to do is to adopt him and have him as my son. He's my, you know, and so I was just still going from job to job there, Pete. But like I remember once he started going, I just, you know, he was my son, and then as he started to get older and started to play. I remember when he started to play, because you see how small he is. You can imagine when he was 6 or 7. When he was 6 and 7, I used to watch him and I used to think, Jesus Christ, this guy is so good, but he's so small. And because of all the problems I had with thinking about height and doing everything I thought was going to get me in, I could kick with my left foot, kick with my right foot, I had pace, I was brave, I could do everything. And I see him doing all this stuff, but I see him doing stuff, James, where he's passing the ball at 9 and 10, when I can't even remember passing it when I was like 12. You know, passing and moving and stuff, so I'm thinking...
So would he have gone into... I'm thinking of, obviously, your upbringing through sort of the amateur game.
Yeah.
Where was the academy system now? Did he go in somewhere early?
Yeah, he went to Forest. Him and Bradley, like 13, 14, they went to...
Oh, they moved
Yeah,
down
they went to Forest, which I was really quite nervous about, you know, because they both left the area. I was quite pleased about that, to be honest. They both left the area, but the problem was, James, as well as they were done there, you know, I think it was Hart, the manager.
Paul Hart?
I think so. I think he moved them on. But the thing is, this is why it's really strange, this kind of affection I have for Manchester City, because not even a week had gone by and Man City took them both. And I remember, like, when speaking
Jim Kessel.
I can't remember. Was it Jim Kessel?
Yeah.
Took them both.
Name,
And I remember saying to Sean about an opportunity, because I didn't think it was going to come this quickly. And obviously he went on to get through, same with Bradley, they went on to play. But like, it was, I think once I realised that they both were capable, it was really hard to, when people say, how good is he? I said, yeah, you kind of like play it down.
I do the same there, because I don't know what your game might be in the other way, because I can only come back on,
I know.
You know what I mean?
You know, because I was really worried about, you know, obviously being a player and then wanting to be players. You know, both of them totally different players to how I played, and both different characters.
To how they play as well.
Yeah, both different characters.
How was it for you as a dad, Wrighty? Because when you said, he asked you then you were 19, you're trying to make your way in the game.
Yeah. How
would you sort of, you know, you've got your head on your football, you're trying to, you know, be as good as you can, and then you're trying to be a father as well. I mean,
Jamie, you know what, Jamie, if I look back now, being 19, it was crazy what I was doing, because I didn't have no future at that time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was still trying to think about getting a, because you know what, like when I was 18, I went to Blackheath to join the army. I'd done the first like kind of exam. And then when I didn't go back. I went out to Blackheath and I didn't go back because
you got in. I mean,
I'm trying to escape something. I didn't know what I was trying to escape, but I know that somewhere along the line, I needed some stability, especially now with Sean being born and that, and you know what I mean. And I needed to have some stability for him, and so I don't know what made me do that. It just felt like the right thing to do at the time. And then, you know, you roll on a couple of years, and I've started to get the stability. I'm working at Greenwich, doing like maintenance, like brickwork and plastering and stuff. And getting to a place where I'm getting better at this, and then Palace come along. You know, and then Palace come along, and I was afraid, Jane, because what it was, and it's something that I didn't want my boys to ever feel, was the fear of the rejection, because I was absolutely petrified of it. And this is why I turned Palace down 3 times, because I thought, you know what, I'm never going to play as well as I did when I went on trial at Brighton. No way. I'm playing away. I'm playing with their first team, scoring goals in their reserves, and they still didn't take me. So I said, I'm not going to put myself through this again. And I didn't want to go back to the area, and they said, did you get in the trial? And, you know, and they said, no. And they used to say things like, yeah, because you're good against us and that. But
Yeah.
And so that was really hanging around a noose around my neck. So I turned him down 3 times until the guy I was working for said, just go, I'll keep the job. If it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, you come. And James, I just realised again that it was an opportunity. And this was one where I thought, I'm just going to go and play. I'm not going to try and please people by holding it up and not losing the ball. I'm just going to go and play.
And how old are you when you...
I was 20, just 22.
When you went for the...
I was just
Seriously?
22. Yeah, 22.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I was 22. And then, you know what, it's, again, it was...
Then you break your leg and you do...
No, that was
You break your leg and do the bad stuff to United.
That was like a few years later. But in that particular moment, like I say, James, this is why I look back, and this is why Sean, I'm so proud of him and what he's done. And I'm really proud of myself to a certain extent, because I know, you know, even the time, I can't even lie, you know, like my mum, at the time of my sister, especially when Bradley was born, I gave Sean everything, gave Bradley everything, made sure. And like they were still upset about the fact that, you know, why are you giving him so much? You know, this is your son. You know what I mean? That was the vibes, and that was the level. And I said, no, because you knew what I went through with a stepfather. I'm not making him feel like he is not mine, right? And I don't want him to ever think that. So this is what I look back at and think to myself, well, I'm really pleased that that's worked out. But then obviously, him starting to play football like he did, James, it goes to a place of pride that I can't even explain.
You can't, James.
You can't
explain it. And Peter...
I played with him. I played with Sean 1 year, my last year. He was in the team. And I mean this in the best possible way. I used to laugh at him.
Why do you laugh?
Because what you said, he was so small.
Yeah.
And he was like, so he gets a ball on he was playing right wing, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He gets a ball, and they're all trying to, you know, to get the ball off him, which is difficult, or was difficult. But they're also trying to do him, right?
Yeah.
And you know those cups you give babies?
Yes,
that never ever.
We used to call him a weevil.
He was like that, you know.
Straight back up.
He goes back, but in the same movement, he comes back up. You know. And I just wanted to say this: for everything you did, he's turned out fantastic. What a great personality.
He's a good kid, isn't he?
What a great human being. And I really enjoyed playing with him.
Peter, what was it like for you then with Kasper? We've seen them famous shots of you getting ready in the tunnel to come out for Man United, and Kasper's there as a kid.
Playing with Incy, when Incy's boy.
Yeah.
With Tom.
With Tom, yeah. Tom and Alex Bruce.
Yeah.
Alex Bruce was there as well. Well, so the difficulty, if you like, for us was that by the time he realises, again, it's a school teacher telling him, have you got any idea how talented you are? He's about 15 years of age. He's gone back to Denmark we have in our schooling system, we have an opportunity to go away for 1 year and board in a school, and there's a little bit of schooling, but you can go if you're into theatre, that could be the subject, or dance or football. And Kasper went in a football kind of camp school, right, for 1 year.
How old was he?
So he went at 14, came out when he was 15, right? So he was a year younger than everybody else. So at one point, sort of halfway through, the coach, which is his teacher as well, asked him, have you got any idea how talented you really are? And he's like completely oblivious to that.
So sorry, Peter, even at this point then, I mean, are you aware how good he is? Have you never had this conversation?
Well, Kasper went through phases of wanting to be different things. So Kasper was 4 years of age when we came to England. So he's been with me all the way throughout my career, really. So he's seen the good side, he's seen the bad side, he's seen what the life is like, and at times he wanted to be a footballer, and at other times he didn't. So when he went back to Denmark, I don't think it was something that he wanted to do really. But going through a year where the focus is on football, you train every day, you're with a team, you're not kind of living a professional life, if you like. You're playing games and all that, and a teacher telling you that you're talented, So he comes over to England on one of the free weekends he's got, and he says, "This is what Bo." The coach's name was Bo. This is what he said. I really don't know what to do about. I kind of think I want to give it a go.
Right.
At this point, I'm at Man City, so I said, well, let's have a chat. That's why with Jim Castle.
Yes.
So Jim Castle straight away said, yeah, of course. Brings him in when he's finished with his school. And that's it. So he's 15 years of age when this happens. When he gets into the academy, and we've.
Was you nervous? Was you nervous for him?
Well, the thing is, what we did, which has been one of the best things we've done as a father and a son, was we had the talk straight away.
Right.
Absolutely straight away. I was at the end of my career. He's seen everything through me and through my eyes and through my career, so at this point, he knows everything about being a professional football, also what the life is like outside.
James, did you have a chat with James? What have you said to James?
Not really. I mean, James was. I mean, obviously, he was in the academy system, of the way it was, and he was at Liverpool initially, and that was like three nights a week, and a game at the weekend.
How old was he when he started?
That would have been about 5.
Right.
5 or 6. Yeah. So we were. I mean. Me and my wife, obviously, with me as well, daughter. So you'd pick them up from school, and then you'd have to be at the academy for like 5 o'clock. So sometimes you'd almost be eating in the car. So you wouldn't be coming home and having a proper meal, then go to training, because it was that tight a time. And it was that thing, you'd be up there for a couple of hours, then my daughter was dancing. So we'd probably be leaving at 4 o'clock, and then you wouldn't be getting in until 10 at night. Wow. And that was probably 4 times a week with the kids. But I just think when it's your kids, you'd do anything, wouldn't you?
Did you see enough in him, James, where you say, no, I'm gonna stick with this for him because he wants to do this?
Initially, I think when you start at an academy, it's all, no matter what position, there's no positions, is there, initially, and it's all doing dribbles, doing tricks, doing turns. I knew he wasn't that type of player. He was tall, he didn't have the shape. And then as the games got bigger, so it starts 4v4, then the year after it's 6v6. So I knew he was getting better as the pitch was getting bigger, basically. And because of...
Was you nervous for him, James?
Yeah, I was a Liverpool player.
Yeah.
So I'm basically stood with the dads on the side of the pitch, and, watching with the other kids. But I've still got mates now a little bit, or my dad has as well, with the other dads. We're still in contact, and they're all getting to that age now where they're either making it or they're not.
Yeah.
You were watching him play when you were still a player?
Yes.
Right. So when Kasper was in school here, obviously playing for the school team, I went to watch his games, and I had to stop going. Because I won't say abused, but of course he was singled out because he was. As soon as they saw me, they added it up. They knew that, and then they were starting to say silly things to him, and I had to stop going because I think in many ways that contributed to him turning away from football, because he had a long period where he just didn't want to do it, turning away from football because it was. I mean, it was nasty. It wasn't fun. It wasn't fun. So obviously, when he then decides to become a footballer, which is obviously in that experience, we sit down and have a talk. I ask him, what do you want me to be in this? Do you want me to be your advisor, your agent, your whatever? And he said, I want you to be my dad.
Oh, brilliant.
So we agreed that day. That's the day when we speak to Jim Castle. We agree that if we ever speak or talk about his football, he's got to start it.
Right.
I cannot start it. We talk about his games, of course, but we don't talk about his football. We talk about, of course, 11 years at Leicester, you talk about it, and the ups and downs has been there. We talk about the games and, how that was offside. What we would do normally if it had been a Man United game or whatever. Yeah. But we never, ever talked about his football.
Amazing.
He would have to come to me for that.
Wow.
And that has worked out an absolute treat for us.
I think of... I'm not at the level of you in terms of you're seen as one of one of the greatest goalkeepers of all time. And I always think of the pressure we maybe put on the coaches who are coaching our kids sometimes, because I think they're probably thinking, you know, the goalkeeper coach, he's probably thinking, well, Kasper's going home, speaking to the great, you know, and I was very mindful of that watching my son, to never really speak to the coach, never really feel like I was, you know, undermining him in any way. When I've just heard you speak there and my own experience, what it takes me back to when I was a kid, Kenny Dalglish's son played in... I played against him, Paul, and he played in my group at Liverpool. And Kenny was manager at Liverpool. So when you're saying about me watching my son as a player, Kenny was the manager. So he would come and watch him play. And it wasn't like the academy system. It was only once a week then. It was the School of Excellence. And I vividly remember that when Paul Dalglish was playing against me, it was like a bit of a big thing. That's Kenny Dalglish's son. And you'd always get them comments, as you've probably had, he's not as good as his dad. And even as a kid, I'd be thinking, what a ridiculous thing to say. Kenny Dalglish is like one of the greatest players. You're one of the greatest goalkeepers of all time. And you have to put up with idiots, don't you?
I mean, I never really speak about this. I think the level that Kasper's produced merits a much, much bigger career. But I think...
Is that because he came after you?
I think there's been a suspicion that I would be interfering in everything. So what I did with, for instance, when he was at Leicester, with Mike Stowley, I made sure he understood that I'm not interfering, I'm not saying anything. And when that's said, I have done it once. So they were in the Championship, and they got promoted a couple of games before the end, and they've done really, really well. I mean, when they scored the most goals and scored the most points. So I'm at that last game when they seal it, and they've still got, I think they've got 2 games to go, and I'm with Kasper the next time he's at training, and obviously goalkeeping training, and I'm thinking, okay, this is the one time I can do it because they've been so successful. So I said to the two of them, I never interfere, but I have an idea, and think about it, right? So what I always wanted for Kasper, and I never, obviously because the deal we made, I could never say that to him. I always wanted him to be a little bit further out. So his starting position was maybe just, you know, a yard further out, you know. And
you could tell him that as a dad, Pete.
Well, I would, no, because then I'm interfering in, and I couldn't, because if I say this as a dad, you know, if I say this, I'm then telling him that you're not doing well enough. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted his goalkeeping coach to work with that. So I took that opportunity because they've been successful. I said, I have this idea. I mean...
So you speak to the coach and say, don't tell him I said...
No, I took both of them, right? Both of them. So when I'm looking at the game, and I think you're doing really well, but if you want to come for more crosses, or if you want to, you know... I kind of think if you're here, that is your starting position. That would be better, and maybe that is something that you can work on, you know. And they took it really well, and it's the only time I've ever interfered.
It's funny you say that, because I remember Sean at Chelsea, and you know, again, because he plays a different position, and it's really interesting what you say there, Pete, about staying out of it because you try to stay out, right? Because they've got enough people telling them stuff, and just because you've played at a certain level doesn't mean that what you're going to say is going to be right for them. But like when I watched Sean, especially when he went to Chelsea, because when I watched him at City, it was just pure joy. He was playing free football, doing anything, or to roam and go anywhere he wanted. It wasn't as structured as when he went to Chelsea, to the point where I remember watching him at Chelsea some of the times. He got the ball and Chelsea signed him because he was flying. He was flying. He could fly down the wing, take you on, cross the ball, and I'd go to games where he wasn't doing that. And I would try to, you know, this is why it's interesting what you say, even as a dad. When I said even as a dad, Pete, you couldn't tell him that. And I say to him, as a forward, I want you to go there. And like, then we had this kind of like this argument about, well, that's not what they want me to do at the moment. They want me to play here. And I said, yeah, but that's not... And then I went, but that's not what they signed you for. They signed you because you had Damien Duff before, you had Iron Robin, and they were flying. And I said, you're doing something. And then it went to a place and kind of stopped talking for a while. And it was one of those... It's a thing that I think back now, and I really regret interfering like that, because it was at a time where it was Mourinho. He was in and out of the team. Obviously, they went on to win the Premier League and that, but it was a time where I didn't know what to do. And I felt like I needed to say something, because he's not doing what I believe he could do. So this was a thing that had me. You know, even as a dad, I'm still learning there because I'm thinking, stay out of that. Stay out of that and let him do his own stuff. And obviously now Sean's got his own son and I'm trying to explain to him, well, don't get too deep into what he's going to do. Let him.
I had a moment like that. Mine was when James was really young. I'll never forget this, and it's something that's always stuck with me. Was I was on the side of the pitch, and it's like a small-sided game, and he's probably only 6 or 7, and he's give the ball away a couple of times, and he sort of looked at me. Wow. They always look, well, when they're really young, you know that thing when you see a kid, he's looking for approval or he's looking for, and he looked at me for help. And my thing went, I went, come on, you know, like, come on, liven up. And I can still picture his face now. His face was like he was looking at me for help, not like, and it was me because I'm wanting to do so well. And I remember thinking, I still think about it and I think,
do you regret that, James?
Oh, yeah.
Jesus, horrible.
But what I'm saying is you probably have to, like, you've said about, you know, having, you know, something with Sean, and that's one of those moments that I can sort of even pass on to him with his own son in the future, that, like, you know, sometimes, and I'm really positive now, I would say a lot. Yeah. You know, I don't think I'd ever really be critical, but the best thing is when they do well, because that's the time when you feel you can say, but think about this. Yes. But think about that. You can just drop it in a little bit, but I'll never forget that at Liverpool's academy and the way I felt afterwards, thinking, I've got that massively wrong.
Yeah. I think you've got to be careful anyway, even if they play well, just saying anything, because what you've done, it's difficult to reach that level, you know? It's difficult, so that's a very, very big gap to bridge, you know? Yeah. And they've got to work it out, first of all, for themselves, but it's with the help of the coaches. You've got to trust the coaches to help them get there. And if they're good enough, they will get there. And I mean, no doubt about that. But even when they're playing well, because of what you've done, because of what your trophy cabinet looks like, you know? Yes. That's pressure. And there is, we know this, there is an enormous amount of pressure in football anyway. And you don't really need that from your parents.
Everything I've got from what we've been speaking about is that we're standing off of our guys, and yes, they're good enough and they've made it, they are professionals. These people are so desperate, whether they would admit it or not, they're so desperate for them to make it that they are, for me, some of them are jeopardising. They're jeopardising it, James.
The kids end up losing the love for the game, don't they? And sometimes I seen this in an academy system where obviously not everybody gets kept on. Each year there's, you know, some kids will go, some new ones will come in. And I used to say this to other parents because they'd want my opinion because I'd been a player, and they'd want my dad's opinion because my dad had been through with me what they were going through then with their sons. And the thing I used to always say to them is, you can't be too intense, and also don't be a problem for the coach. Don't be questioning the coach about whether your son's playing or whether he's had enough minutes or what positions he's playing. I said, because you know, if your sons are 50-50 about getting kept on, if the parent's a problem,
they'll blow you out. Yeah.
It will be. But if it's a 50-50 and you're good and supportive and encourage your son, you're supportive of the coaching staff, you might just get that extra year. And we know how important that is. How many players do we hear saying, at 14 and 15, I got released somewhere, maybe I went somewhere else, or I just got kept on there, I was lucky, and then who knows where it goes, you know, that type of thing. So I think that the way parents are is massive around the kids. It has to be. But when you're talking about your kids, are you different with your grandkids than you would with your kids? Is it a different type of thing when you're watching them play?
If you meet Rafi, she's adorable, right? She's adorable. I just love the fact that I can spend that time with her and we can speak, because you know what I do now with her, James, is I send her clips of stuff, but I never send her clips of people doing stuff that can't beat someone, to go past somebody. You know what I mean? I always send her something and she'll always say, thanks, Granddad, yeah, I'll try that one, because that's how she speaks. Thanks, Granddad, I'll try that one. And so I've just got a nice relationship with her where I I'm trying not to make her feel, because there's a lot of, you know what, there's a lot of attention on her. You know what I mean? She does this thing on Instagram with her people where they do the one-on-ones, the coaching with her teams and that, which sometimes a little bit of worry because I feel like she's maybe in that spotlight too much. But because she's so good, you know, people want to see what she's doing. But I'm trying now, and the same with Sean, is to try to make sure that it's level for her. And at the same time, I have to say things like, yeah, well, Raf, because she wants to be a professional footballer more than anything in the whole world. And so I have to try and kind of like mask it by saying, well, Raf, if you're gonna be a footballer and you want to be a good footballer, you have to deal with the attention and you have to act right and you have to be very polite and, you know, but you've got to still enjoy what you're doing, but you make sure you pass to your team. You know what I mean? Honestly, James, you know, sometimes I'm sitting with her, even when we're in the car, and I don't know what to say because I don't want to say something to her as a 10-year-old that's going to stay with her for life just because, you know, we're just having this conversation. And I get very nervous. I get very nervous about that. I get very nervous about that, saying the right, and I get very nervous for some reason about injuries, James. You know, you know, injuries, like, I was very fortunate I didn't get them. You know what I mean? Do you think about injury? I think about stuff for the kids that I never thought of with myself.
Honestly, the last, I would say 12 months ago, I was in a dark place.
Wow.
Over me son's injuries. I didn't get injured. And I'll be honest with you, my mentality with injuries, even when I was a player at Liverpool, I would go in the treating room and I'd see people on the bed. And I could never get this out of me. I'd think they're faking it. They're not tough enough. They're not. Because I didn't get injured. I couldn't understand that people got injured. Now, I had a broken leg, but someone done my leg, or I had a knee operation. But in terms of like hamstring, calf, or something's not feeling right.
Continuous.
I mean, I would play through with things. That's just the way I was brought up. And I'd be like, I'd dismiss people and I couldn't understand things. And then my own son went through it. And he had a knee problem on the back of COVID. So COVID came in and no one could go to the training ground. So I said, well, okay, you have to do a bit of training on your own, we don't know when you go back. One-on-one coaching, knee blows up. But you couldn't even go to the hospitals were closed. Everything was closed. You couldn't get an operation, nothing. You couldn't see a physio. So it was like, bring it down, and then you get back, and this knee would keep swelling up and swelling up. And it went on for a couple of years. And then he had the operation. And then I'm thinking, okay, he's going to be back now. So he'd been playing on with it, anti-inflammatories, you know, all that type of stuff. Went to non-league, played with Oldham, then got a knock on the knee. Right, let's get the operation. I could see his face. He got the operation. I'm thinking, okay, finally now, after 2 years, he's been to see the best person in London. We're great. Start pre-season. I go on holidays on pre-season. And as soon as he phones me, because I knew it was a big day, it was his first day back with the group, and I've got that phone call, and me, I know already, my stomach, and I'm thinking, so I'm on holiday. As soon as I get that phone call, I've booked a flight that night, straight away. The holiday's finished for me. I've got to get home, because I know it. He can't be at home on his own with this, because his big thing is, right, I'm back for pre-season. I'm like, and seeing him and what we went through last summer to try and get to the bottom of it, I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. And the thing of seeing him play now and the fact that he's okay. And I was actually thinking, is he going to play again? Wow. Is he going to be? And I remember on the flight home, I made a list of things me and him could do together if he didn't become, not become a footballer.
You went there, James?
I was thinking, I've got to keep him going. I was thinking, we'll do a podcast together. We'll do this together. We'll go and watch all the best games around the world. We'll do this. I'm thinking, I've got to keep him going, you know, because I'm thinking mentally, because I knew where I was, but I'm thinking, what about him?
Jesus.
And it was, for me, it was probably one of the darkest moments of my life.
What about the missus?
Really emotional.
How's a missus with that? How you two together? Because I know as a footballer, Jamie, you're right in, but how was she?
My wife, Nicola, has got no interest in football, but she's really passionate about her kids. Obviously, she won't watch James now, because the one time she went to watch him for Wigan, he went off with the knee. And we went up to Scotland to watch him play, where he's playing now with Inverness, when he's absolutely fine, he's flying. but he just got a knock, nothing to do with that. But he just went down, the physio had to come on, and she's like having a panic attack, and she's just gone down and went, I don't want to watch him anymore because I can't go through that. And she'd almost not want to know. So I couldn't really go to her and say, oh, James, because she'd be saying, oh, I don't want to know. You know, that, and it's changed my perspective on actually players now with injuries who I played with.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking I was too hard on them.
I was doing filming in 5 hours out of Moscow when I get a phone call and he says, I'm playing tomorrow. So this is the first day of the season, right? I'm playing. So Sven's put him in the team. So I'm making my way back. I mean,
What team was this at the time?
Man City.
Right.
So I'm making my way. I'm honestly, I'm not lying. I'm risking my life. I'm driving with the oldest driver I've ever had, 5 hours on a very, very bad road between Yaroslav and Moscow to get to the airport. Right. Along the way, we get undertaken by cars, but they're not driving on the asphalt. They're driving, you know, on like a hard shoulder of stuff. I mean, he was just so bad. And once we got to Moscow, he was old. He was so tired, and there was a bit of traffic, and he accidentally hit the car in front of him. The guy went
Whiplash.
out. Yes. I'm not lying. The guy was so angry, went out of his car, and the driver, he locked his door and, you know, rolling down the windows. And the guy pulled this old guy through the window. I'm not lying. And I'm sat in the back seat like this.
Oh, no.
I've just survived 5 hours on the road, right?
No,
and I'm happy. I'm sat there in the car. So at some point, I'm thinking, if I die, at least I'm dying trying to get to see my son play.
Wow.
You know?
Wow.
So I accepted my fate. And anyway, I got to the airport, flew to London. They're playing West Ham. I get to West Ham about half an hour before kickoff. And I never really had time to ponder this, you know. My boy is going to play a Premier League match. I never really thought about that, you know. And, you know, I'm a bit stressed for all of that, you know. And then they're coming out. And I see these grown-up people coming out. You know, they're about to play this game, Man City or West Ham versus Man City. And there's this small boy wearing gloves. And I'm looking, he's just a child.
I know.
He's just a child.
Christ.
Your child.
Yours as well.
You can't put him in there, you know? I'm like this. And honestly, I'm so nervous. I'm like, ooh. And then within the first sort of 10 minutes, he's come for one cross, he's had 2 saves, and I'm like,
he's okay.
it's all right.
Yeah.
And I relaxed. And I decided, this is my decision, I decided to be relaxed about it. I mean...
Do you enjoy watching him? Could you enjoy watching him play?
I worked myself into a place where I was able to enjoy it. I worked myself in, but it took a lot of persuasion to myself. I had to say, you know, I had to really work with myself because you have that emotional attachment. And because you've been in that situation, because you know what he's seeing, you know what he's facing. And you sat there and you can't do anything about it. You just have to be a spectator. You just have to be there. Then it was a difficult period for me to, and then he only played 7 games. He conceded in 2 games. He had 5 clean sheet against Man United, and for, you know, all of a sudden, without any warning whatsoever, he was out of the team again. Wow. So that period after that was really, really difficult. And again, going back to the agreement that we had, I wasn't coming in with suggestions about anything. I was encouraging.
Did you feel like he wanted to, though?
But he was coming to me for, you know, so we did have, you know, talks, and I remember I'm playing a par 3 tournament in Coventry. I've said to you to come and play that because it's brilliant. Playing, and he phones me up and said, I've just had a phone call of Sven. And we're now a couple of years down. He's not really played, and Mark Hughes is the manager, and he's gone from number 2 to number 3, and it kind of, I mean, it's uphill. Yeah. Man City won't let him go. Coventry, he was at loan. He took all the loan deals he could get. Coventry, Cookie was the manager. He was desperate to get him, and it was dragging on and on. Man City asked for 2 months, and it wasn't happening.
Right.
He goes, I've just had a phone call from Sven. I know this is going to sound stupid, but he's at Notts County. They have this project, you know, and he says it's a really good project. And he desperately wants me. I'm the first person he's phoning up since he's got the job. And I'm in Coventry. I'm thinking, okay, do you want me to go over and have a chat with Sven? And he says, yeah. So I went to speak to Sven and the guy who had the project. And Sven loves Kasper. He's always wanted Kasper. So I'm listening. I'm listening to what they're saying, and this sounds like a really, really good project. I phoned Kasper up. Said, listen, I think, you know, have a conversation, see what you think. But you got to drop down to to League Two. I mean, and he says, I feel I need to restart my career. Right. I need to do this.
Wow.
So he ended up going to Notts County, and the whole project, of course, it wasn't there. You know, there's no money in that. It was just, and Sven left. Sven left after.
That's when Sol Campbell went there, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But they won League Two. So that kind of was the beginning of establishing himself as a really good goalkeeper, a solid goalkeeper. He went to Leeds. I mean, I'm not saying, I won't say anything. Pete, be quiet. Not great.
Right.
Absolutely not great.
Right.
And then...
Was he worried around that? When it wasn't great?
I was very, very...
Really, but yeah?
Yeah,
Did you want? Did he need his dad there, or did you need to do something?
Let me put it this way: of course, I'm going to go there for his first game. I mean, the Man United Leeds can't be in the crowd. Yeah. So I'm asking to be in the director's box. Ken Bates is the chairman. Yeah. They put me in the crowd. I'm fuming, absolutely fuming, and then the crowd start to sing to Kasper that you are right, but your dad is, you know. Yeah. And I'm thinking, this is not right. I mean, this is not right for him. I get summoned by Ken Bates after the game. And I didn't want to go. I'm with Kasper's agent, and he said, just go and see, you know, and then maybe you'll be treated, you know. I'm fuming because of where I'm sat. I've had abuse for 2 hours, right? Jesus. Absolute abuse for 2 hours. I'm watching my son play his first game for a new club. So I get summoned, you know. Okay, I then say, okay, I'll go. And I get a football lesson of Ken Bates. He's telling me how to play football. I'm like,
honest to God.
My God. So I never went. After that, never went again. And I was happy when he left. And again, it was Sven taking over Leicester.
We're all pundits. So, right, I mean, the fact that you've had that full journey with Sean, he's not playing anymore. You've seen probably other people talking about him as well on TV. I mean, does that make you change? Obviously with Bradley as well. Do you think about that with your own punditry when you're speaking about basically someone's child?
Yeah, because like I will always try and just be very, very. I'm never overcritical. I'll be very positively critical of what I've seen. I remember because when I was playing, I used to feel like I got a lot of negative criticism, which doesn't help. The positive criticism, you say, oh, okay, I need to work on that, I need to do. But the negative criticism makes it just twist your stomach and stuff. And so I always try to, as a pundit, just to be very, very like, you know, clear with what they've done and why that was wrong to do that.
And that comes from the fact that you've had your son playing? Absolutely.
And the thing with Sean, I remember doing Sean for England. We were doing Sean for England. He was playing for England, and he was when I was doing the punditry with ITV. And I remember it wasn't a great game he's having. There's a couple of crosses that didn't go in. We lost the game. I think we lost the game 1-0 to Ireland. Is it?
I played in the game. Is that away from home?
Yeah.
Yeah, I played. Yeah.
And you know, I remember it really well because I had to. It was the most awkward I've ever felt, and I really. If I look back now, I would have said, I don't want to do that game if he's playing. I do not want to do punditry on him because I had to explain about my own son not getting the ball into an area, what he should have a couple of times. And it was.
Why would they make you?
I don't, James.
No, but I mean, we know it's.
I don't know if anyone's ever been in that position.
Yeah.
You know what? And this is why it's only afterwards. And as I was doing it, I wish I had the management team I have around me now. I'd have probably dealt with it a lot better. But I was very emotional, and it was very. You know what, James? I look back at it. I was disappointed in myself. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know if I was right. I didn't know if I was wrong. I suppose if there was a lot more social media around now, it would have gone to another place. But like, I remember there was one thing I said on there was, because we lost to Ireland, I actually said I haven't got anything else to say. But the fact is that I was in such a weird place, having to do punditry on my own son, you know, which was something that I'm glad I didn't ever have to do again.
That's bad presenting, first of all, and it's bad punditry from your colleagues. I think, because, you know, you're a team, you've got to look after each other, and it takes nothing to look stupid on live TV. And there's no way back.
Tell me about it.
Because it's out there.
That's what I was going to say with James, because you was quite pleased, James, like with Aaron Ramsdale's dad when he came back. Because as well as, the thing is, Jack, because you can totally understand.
Oh, yeah. And when people, you know, listen, the line of work that we're in, we have to give opinions. Sometimes they're strong. Sometimes you try and look after someone a little bit.
Give context, James, so the people who don't know, with Aaron Ramsdale.
So with Aaron Ramsdale, I mean, at the time, he was a bit of a fan's favourite last season for Arsenal fans. And then Mikel Arteta took a really brave decision as a manager, bringing another goalkeeper in. Probably going to get a little bit of, you know, backlash from the Arsenal fans, but I felt it was the right decision. I felt if Arsenal wanted to move on as a team and take the next step to win the Premier League, it was the right decision. And his dad came out and was critical of me. And you know what? I loved it. Because I was sitting there thinking, that's what I'd do.
Yeah.
That's what I'd do. If someone said something about my son, even though I'm a pundit and I've said something about plenty of players and managers, whatever it may be, I actually admired it and had absolutely no problem with any parent, you know, coming out and defending their son, because that's families, you know, it's your life.
You know what I loved about that, James, is that you didn't go back again. Like,
no.
Because you know something, again, like we're talking about our sons and what it means to us. And I know for a fact, James, I'm coming as well. I would do what Mr. Ramsdale done as well, simply because it's your flesh and blood, man. You know what I mean?
Well, guys, listen, the two of yous have got sons, obviously, who've both won the Premier League. Wow. I mean, I would absolutely dream and love to see my son lift the Premier League one day. But I mean, what was that like? I mean, watching that.
You know what, James? It was again, you know, watching Sean. Like I say, when he was younger, how small he was, thinking it wasn't going to happen. For him to then not only go on to play for City and do brilliantly, go to Chelsea and win the Premier League, you know, it's very difficult to try and explain. And the same with Bradley. You know, Bradley, you know, he left there, went to America and scored some amazing goals, won the boot there, record goal scorer and that in New York and that. But to win the Premier League, you know, especially with everything what you've got to do, with all that journey what he's had with his dad playing, his dad ended up, you know, unfortunately being able to do it yourself. But like for him to do it, James, it felt better for me.
Yeah.
It just, you know what I mean? Because like I say, I never, watching Sean play and watching Bradley play and, you know what I mean? Even when I went and watched my grandson play when he's at Stoke and that, you know, watching them play, it's not a nice thing. It's not an easy thing. So to see them go and play, then you see them go and play for England, you know, and everything what's happened with him at England, you know, watch him score his first goal for England. I still feel that in winning the Premier League, for me, I felt like I'd done it.
Yeah.
I felt like I'd done it for, you know what I mean, because I was so proud. His one meant more to the family than me doing it for me because of his journey and how he had to come through. I can't even explain how great it is. You know, he loves telling me that he played 3 more games for England than me, which is fine. I mean, I've got I've got the Premier League like you, but I'm so happy for him. I'm just happy for him. And then, you know, you say that, I think we probably have to say with the Leicester story, like Pete and Kasper, it could arguably be one of the greatest stories.
The last game is Everton at home. They've already won. They know they're going to be presented with a trophy.
I was on the pitch with you. I'm sure we were on the pitch. We were working together.
So they can have 4 people on the pitch, each player. So with 10 minutes to go, we're then going from where we are, and we have to wait inside the stadium to get out onto the pitch, but they're not allowing us out on the pitch before the game's ended, right? So by the time I leave my place, Leicester were 3-0 up. So we get to the pitch, the game is like this, and Kasper's angry, really angry, you know? I mean, they're winning the Premier League, they're going to get the trophy that day. And I'm like, what's wrong? And it turns out that he'd conceded a goal in that 10 minutes period that we were in there, and he hadn't won the Golden Glove.
Right.
And that was, on that day, the first moment of pride for me, because I knew then that the hunger for winning, to continue doing what you've done, not to, say, oh, we've done this, and then sit back and relax. I saw that in every player that I played with for Man United. I saw that in their eyes. So I was really, really proud there. And then, of course, on the pitch, when he lifted that trophy. That, for me, is still the best moment in my football life.
Wow.
I love that moment.
It superseded all of yours.
I talk about this in my book, my pride and all of this, that sometimes, and especially when I left Man United, made me take stupid decisions because I wanted to be this big, impregnable person that you couldn't beat me out. I was like that. And so when I was in that situation, I was, but we're supposed to do this,
Yes.
Of course, very happy and all that. But there, I had all the emotions coming to me. Everything I've done myself for those situations, it just came to me there, and it was such a big moment for me. And it was just unbelievable.
It's unbelievable.
So, guys, I want to talk about the Euros, how you think it'll go, Kasper's going. I mean, what are your thoughts on the summer, Wrighty?
I feel really good about us, James, simply because I feel like we've got a lot of good offensive players on form. Obviously, I feel defensively is where we're probably centre-half area, is where we might, I don't know what he's going to do, how he's going to configure that. But from an offensive point of view, James, we've got to be going in there as one of the teams that are one of the favourites to do well there. We have to be. If we're not, then you're looking at the players, what we've got who are performing unbelievably at the moment. You look at Harry Kane. Look, Harry Kane's done in. You look at Jude Bellingham, Phil Foden. When you're looking at these players, what they're doing. Declan Rice's season. You have to, if you're an England fan and you're not feeling a little bit confident about doing something, then that's just being negative.
Peter, what do you think? Obviously, you hear a lot, you do the punditry work, but sort of from a Denmark point of view, I think
we're in the same
in the group.
Yes.
But I mean, in terms of a lot of people in England thinking we've got a great chance of winning it, do you see that as an outsider, or
no,
I just get emotional?
I do. I mean, obviously, for all the reasons you just said there, I think you have a great chance. I think there are other teams in there, I think I look at Portugal, I always look at Belgium for some reason.
You have to look at France.
You look at France, you look at Germany at home.
Germany got a very
Germany
good
at
side.
home, you look at Spain.
They get going.
I mean, it is a really, really strong field.
We'll see how it goes, eh?
But, it's Euros are.
It's Euros, bro.
It's strong.
We've seen teams come off the beach and win it.
We have. And it's possible.
And that's a good place to finish. So, that is an Overlap Gillette Labs special for Father's Day. Happy Father's Day to every father out there. And come on, England!
Yes.
And Denmark.
And Denmark.